Is your adult child cut off, and are you grieving and hurting? Well, in this video, you're going to learn 5 tips on how to cope, how to get through this experience of grieving. Hi, I'm Marie Morin. I'm a therapist and a wellness coach. Let's get started. So family estrangement, the estrangement of an adult child, it's terribly difficult. It's challenging to navigate why someone intentionally leaves the relationship. What happens is people go through the grieving process. There's a loss of the relationship status. Estrangement can be gut-wrenching and very uncomfortable to navigate. It's normal when someone intentionally cuts off from the relationship and doesn't want to see us anymore, that we experience grief. And grief is very painful. We're going to go through the 5 tips. However, before we do that, let's talk a little bit about what goes on with grief and how it impacts us emotionally and physically. So grieving is a normal process and it impacts our emotions and our body. When we're not addressing the emotional response to the hurt that we have, it really impacts our health. And so what's important is to address the symptoms of grief. Let yourself go through them. Getting support when you're grieving is absolutely essential. It's very hard to go through this alone. There's no reason to be ashamed about needing help because it's hard on us and we need someone to be in our corner. Grief comes in waves. We hear about the 5 stages of grief, but it's not like you graduate from one to another. You can experience within the same day feelings of guilt and then anger. You could be feeling a lot of sorrow and sadness and then be in shock. So there's no like steps that you graduate. They can fluctuate. And for the first 6 months of grieving, it could be a very harrowing experience. And it's a normal experience. So identifying where you are in the grieving process is also something that needs to happen. Are you experiencing a lot of sadness? Is there a lot of anger? Are you in shock? When we know what it is, we can address the emotion and the physiological response to that emotion and allow ourselves time to heal. So sometimes the loss experience can be so overwhelming that it's called complex grief. In the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, the 5th edition, it's called Complex Bereavement Disorder. And this is a way of describing what happens when it's prolonged grief. There could be symptoms of numbing, an intense attention to the person, feeling like you can't be yourself or enjoy your life again because you've lost the person, emotional numbing, intense pining for the person, avoiding reminders or looking at reminders often. You could be irritable. There could be an intense desire to reunite, feelings of hopelessness and purposelessness. Some people get really stuck and need help. They need professional help. And so if you find yourself in this position, it's time for you to call a therapist and go see them, go talk to someone and get the professional help that's absolutely necessary. Taking care of your mental state when you're grieving is essential. There's no way out of it. It's not like you can skip the grieving process. You're going to be through it. So I call the state of where you're looking for your estranged loved one, your estranged adult child, and you want resolution, you want to reconnect with them. and the experiencing that you're having right now as the state of limbo. You don't know what's going on. You have no idea. That's part of why estrangement is so hard, because it's so ambiguous. When someone actually passes, you know you're never going to see them again. But there's so many questions and concerns and uncertainty around estrangement that there's a lot of ambiguous feelings. During the state of what I refer to as limbo is when an adult child has left the relationship and the parent pines for there to be reconnection. And this ambiguous state creates a great deal of anxiety. It's very difficult, it's very challenging when you're waiting and you're in this limbo state. So one of the resources that I believe is extremely helpful is to be informed of the estrangement condition. What that means is that you read what the research says, you read whatever you can, you watch videos. I have a ton of videos about it that are extremely informative, and many people have been helped by them. Know what's going on. Know why your adult child has cut off. Learn about processing grief. You're going to want to watch my video 10, The Stages of Grief in Estrangement. It will be very helpful to give you more on this topic. You're also going to want to read other people's stories and what's happening for other people. Why does this help? Because you're not alone. This is widespread and common, and it seems to be in some ways an epidemic. Many adult children are estranging from their parents, and a lot of parents are experiencing this condition of being cut off from their adult children. Learning about what's behind why adult children estrange will help you grow an empathy muscle for them. You'll also hopefully grow an empathy muscle for yourself. This is a difficult time, so learning how to gain self-compassion, yes, self-compassion will be very helpful, especially if you're in the midst of deep grief. The second tip is to go inwards and do emotional visits. So what this really means is to take time to allow yourself to feel. And you might be saying, you know what, I'm feeling all day. I'm usually feeling pretty badly. What emotional visits really means is that you truly do feel. You sit with it. You allow yourself to feel the sadness. You allow yourself to cry. You notice where it is in your body. If you need to cry, you let it happen and expel it. Journaling is an excellent form of applying this emotional visit because you just let it out on paper. You don't have to worry about whether it's grammatically correct. You just want to let it out on paper. What are you feeling? What are you sad about? What are you anxious about? What are you worrying about? This is an important step in coping with grief. Once you've completed this process of allowing yourself to feel, letting it out, then do something different. Go watch a funny movie, call a friend, go for a walk, pet your dog. Do something that brings you joy and pleasure. And the third key is to do self-care. So I talk a lot about self-care, but self-care is truly important. Yes, it's a good idea to get a manicure and a pedicure. It's a good idea to do exercise, make sure you're eating well and drinking and sleeping. All of this is very important. But self-care also means that you're addressing things like regulating your emotion, like you're thinking about, how can I get myself calm when I need to? How can I allow my body to truly rest? And learning things like diaphragmatic breathing, and I have a video about that, or doing things like meditation, prayer, yoga. These really help manage the stress and the emotions that we feel in our body. Writing affirmations or telling yourself first thing in the morning, I am loved, I am enough. This somewhat rewires. It tells your inner self, especially when you're experiencing a lot of guilt and the grief is really, really wearing on you. Doing these affirmations, I am loved, I am enough, it resets the way that we think, but we have to do it regularly, every day. Before your feet hit the floor, you want to practice affirmations. And number 4 is to have a support system. So in addition to having a therapist, it's a good idea to not isolate. We tend to isolate when we're feeling low and when we're grieving, but spending time with people who love and value you is so important. You want to be around those people. If you have someone who listens and knows how to listen without it being very uncomfortable for you, then see this person, talk to them. These friendships and the support that you gain are absolutely vital to helping you move through the grieving process. The 5th tip is gratitude. So it's really hard to feel grateful when you're so sad and hurting about your estranged adult child or loved one. But if you could just think of one thing that you're grateful for and meditate on it. Do you have a warm home? Do you have a loving friend? Do you have a loving spouse? Whatever you find, that one thing, you can look back on the memories that you had with your adult child or your loved one and think about those and be grateful that you had those experiences, and lean into things that bring you joy in life that you know that you are grateful for, and meditate on those. I have a series of videos on gratitude practice that are an excellent way to get into this, but journaling every day, all you got to do is write 3 things you are grateful for. Before you go to sleep, recall 5 things that you are grateful for. This is an excellent way to move through the grieving process. I hope this video has been a help to you. If you did like it, please leave me a comment. Tell me what you thought about it, and also hit the like, subscribe, ring the bell, and get my ebook, Feeling Heartbroken and Alone, How to Pick Up the Pieces When You're Estranged. See you in the next video.